Hello everyone, and welcome to another of Method's Alpha Dungeon Guides. I'm Chris Potter, and here with me is Zerps.
Hey guys, today we're looking at an instance that might give you a bit of a deja vu. Yes, it's the Violet Hold, a dungeon you might remember from Revel Lich King. It's kind of surprising that they brought this dungeon back into the game, but we'll have a look at it anyways. Now, if you don't remember this dungeon, or you just didn't play back then, just like me, this dungeon is kind of special and it's not like your typical dungeon. The entire dungeon takes place in one room, which by the way is the prison block in Dalaran. Prisoners will be released that you have to kill to prevent them from escaping. At the top of your screen you'll see a percentage of your gate back into Dalaran. It will go down if the mobs hits it, and if it reaches 0 you will wipe. The first trash you'll encounter will be a Portal Guardian. These can be different mobs every time they spawn. The Portal Guardian we got first spawns a green circle that will suck players into it, and after a few seconds it will explode and deal high damage. It will also apply a debuff to the tank, reducing healing taken by 50%. You can simply dispel it. There was also some small dogs that simply just apply an armored reducing debuff. The next trash we got was the Elite Legion Squad. They have a big mix of abilities. The Big Infernals will do a pulsing AoE that deals high amount of damage if left uninterrupted, and will do a Fell Slam ability that you should dodge. The Caster Mobs will do a damaging spell on the tank and make purple zones on the ground that you should simply move out of. The Assassin Mob will poison players and blind them for a couple of seconds. The blind can be dispelled by any healer, but the poison can only be dispelled by druid, monks and paladins. After that we got another Portal Guardian. This time the mob was a spellcasting mob. And apart from spamming Mind Spike on the tank, it also had a channel ability called Shield Your Eyes. It dealt high amount of damage to the group over its duration. You need to make sure you interrupt this or you will probably wipe. The next Portal Guardian we got didn't really do much. He had a Vampiric Cleave ability, but it didn't seem to do anything. We guess that it's supposed to heal him if people stand at it, so try to avoid that. Now we come to the first boss. We should mention that there are 7 possible bosses you can get, and it is random which one you get every time.
Yeah, and the first one that we got was Blood Princess Falona. She's the daughter of Blood Queen Lanafel, who you may remember was the vampiric boss from ICC. And she shares the same kind of mechanic that her mother had. At the start of the fight, she was going to cast Vampire's Kiss, turning a player into a vampire and giving them the buff Essence of the Blood Princess for 30 seconds. This gives you 100% increased damage, 10% increased leech, and threat reduced by 100%, so it's a really powerful buff. After the buff runs out, you will have 10 seconds to fight another player and turn them into a vampire too. Your action bars will change and give you a new spell to use. You need to target a player and use it on them to turn them into a vampire too. If you fail to bite a friendly player within 10 seconds however, you'll become mind controlled by the boss. We should mention that even after you've bitten another player, you still retain the damage increase and threat reduction buff. 30 seconds after that, the 2 vampires you have will both need to bite someone again. This means that towards the end of the fight you will have 4 total players bitten. You should not bite the tank because they will lose aggro. Throughout the fight the boss will do pulsing damage to every player that is not a vampire, and this damage increases for every vampire that there is. The boss's last ability is called Blood Swarm. The boss will shoot blood bolts at random players, dealing some damage, and also spawning pools of blood beneath them which will deal more damage if you stand in it. This boss was a fun boss, and it was nice to have a bit of a throwback to the old ICC boss. After the first boss you have to deal with more trash waves coming. We had mostly the same waves as at the start of the dungeon, but we did get one new type of trash. The giant Felguard will throw his axe on the floor, dealing huge damage to anyone standing near it. And his other ability is deadly too. Fell Destruction is the channel that deals big damage to the group and needs to be interrupted ASAP. This mob is nothing to worry about if you move out of the axe and interrupt it, but if you ignore even one of these mechanics, you could wipe quite easily. We eventually killed enough trash to spawn our second boss, and we got Shivermore. This boss was also a throwback to ICC to a lesser extent, as it was very Sindragosa-like. She has the standard Dragon Toolkit of the breath and the tail sweep, so make sure not to stand behind or in front of her. She will do a Relentless Storm, which causes these zones on the ground that will deal damage if you are hit. This also causes the upper levels of the dungeon to be covered in frostbite, dealing damage to anyone up there and slowing them. Her last and most important ability is called Ice Bomb. She will fly up into the air and then release a bomb that explodes after 5 seconds, dealing damage to everyone and stunning anyone in the lower parts of the prison for 30 seconds. This means you need to get up to the upper levels of the prison to avoid it. As you can see, we did not know we were supposed to run up to the upper levels, and all of us got stunned. This would have been a wide bit if it had not been for our mage Deliver H, who ironically was able to use his Ice Block ability to break out of the Ice Block. He freed Sko, and Sko tanked the boss until the rest of us were forward from the Ice Blocks. After even more repetitive trash, you will finally get to the last boss, which is actually 2 bosses.
You'll start the fight with Lord Malgath. He is the easier opponent of the two. He will place a Shadow Bomb on a player, and after 5 seconds it will explode and deal damage around them. After some point, he will summon a Shadow Beast. You can simply AoE them down because they don't have that much health. His last ability is a Shadow Bolt Volley, which you can simply interrupt. After you've killed him, you'll face the real boss, Saalwan. This boss has a really interesting mechanic, but we'll get to that in a moment. The first ability he has is Venom Spray. It does damage in front of him, so make sure not to stand there. The boss also has the ability called Web Grab. It will grab a player into him, just like a Death Grip, and the last ability the boss has is Spell Detonation. It will deal damage to all players near him. Now, the hardest, and definitely the most interesting mechanic on the fight, are the spiders. They will fixate random players indicated by the string of web connecting them to the player. If they reach the player, we assume that they will kill you instantly. However, if you face the spiders, they will return back into the shadow and they won't chase you anymore. But if you turn your back to them, they will start chasing you again. Because each spider will change who they are fixated, you need to be very careful to not only be far away from your own spiders, but also the remaining spiders. You should also be aware that the boss still does his web grab ability while the spiders are active. So you should always be planning your positioning to be able to deal with it. Again, try to keep the spiders away from the boss so you make it easier for your mates as well. Now we should say that yes, this dungeon is very repetitive and the trash is extremely boring. However, the redeeming factor of this dungeon is that there are a lot of bosses and they have some really fun mechanics. So if you don't die of boredom in between the bosses, the dungeon is actually quite enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. And this concludes our alpha guide for the Violet Hole dungeon. If you found this helpful, be sure to leave a comment and like the video, and check out our other guides. Thanks for watching guys, bye.
Bye guys.